Welcome to Crashing Game Night. My name is Matt Diorio. Tonight, we have our interview with Aaron Kaufman, director of social for Square Enix. I am joined by, as always, the beanied one, Gerard Barrera.
Oh, hello. Hello, all of my fellow nerds. Please come join us.
Oh my, it's that kind of a night.
Hello,
Oh
hello.
my goodness.
Yes, that was like my little fanciness and my little fancy coffee cup with the pinky up, please, always.
Oh,
Jerry,
what is up, all my fellow nerds? How you doing? Thanks for joining. Thanks for listening.
Hey, Lions Mane, Jason Belidio, why don't you go ahead and weigh in on your thoughts on this complete BS?
Hey, what's up?
Well, hello there. How's it going, guys?
How's it going? Love it.
Fine, pinky up.
Pinky up today, guys.
That's
Pinky
right.
up.
Thank you. Yes. This is a thing. We just made a thing. I love it.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our beautiful couch.
What's up,
our
guys?
new pillowed couch.
Thank you for joining.
Oh,
so what's going on?
So how is everyone doing?
Well, it's been
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Been active. Been embracing AZ a little bit. Went on a hike.
There you go.
Yeah, it was
Get
cool.
into the
got
desert?
a little. Yeah, I was planning to do like a little 2-mile hike just to like try it out and like, take it easy. But I got a little turnaround and it ended up being like 4.1 miles.
How to get? Is it just desert, so you don't know which way it's to go?
Well, I mean, like the trails are so long, and then you literally have like this stick and like kind of the olden day, like this trail, and then this is another trail, and then I thought I was on the right trail, but I ended up going even higher, and then all the way around like where the national park was. So it was like.
This man just doesn't even be like, you know what? Let me just do a 180 and just walk backwards.
I just kept moving forward, man. Like we all should in life.
Oh man, you're right. You're just having your Red Dead real life.
Oh my god.
Oh
Dude,
man.
I love
it.
And Red Dead. I mean, I swear.
You know that's what Jerry was thinking in his mind too.
I really was. I was like, oh man. It's like I'm really in the game right now. Where's my horse? It was so cool. And I really had the urge to like pitch a tent and like camp out.
To the team at Rockstar, my apologies for him thinking Arizona, where he was at hiking, was anywhere near Red Dead Redemption.
Very true. But still, you guys know.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And I love your
Jason.
I love your game.
Jason, you got one more week and so you can get your second shot?
2 actually. I go in again. Technically about 2-ish, 3.
You lucky bastard.
Okay. I go in again on the 15th, and that'll be the fun one.
So,
dude, it's no joke. That second
shot. After essential employees, then it's gonna start going to the public, right?
Yeah, I like honestly, like there's been so many shots going out.
Hey Jerry,
it might be earlier.
I'm in Group 1C.
Yeah, see,
I'm not in the public group.
Oh no way!
IT is considered essential, so we're in part of Group 1C.
Actually, that kind of makes sense.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting because
especially this day and age, like that makes sense.
It's getting close to like general public, but we've been failing shots out, which is interesting. It's been crazy.
So I do want to talk about it because there's an interesting little correlation that's taken place in the last week. Is that as things have kind of opened back up and we're unfortunately becoming cannon fodder for the rest of the world with their commentary, but I can't help but not ignore it. As people have been getting their shots, things are starting back up again. The joke now is, which sad but true is, it's now been a return to the weekly mass shootings in the U.S. And this one kind of hits home, kind of like last week, with Atlanta hit home with you and Jason and Theo, is there was a attack in Boulder, Colorado, which, of course, Theo is from Colorado. He lives probably about a good 30 minutes from Boulder. Myself, on the other hand, I spent most of my life in Longmont and Erie, which is right on the outskirts of Boulder. From where I lived in Erie, Jerry's been out there. You could see the Flatirons of Boulder from my backyard.
Yeah, you probably know exactly where it was located.
I know
the point.
Oh, I know exactly where it took place. The King Supers on Table Mesa, because back in late high school, early 2000s, we used to go to the Laser Storm laser tag place there in Boulder, which was up on the second floor of that whole shopping strip. So I know exactly where it is.
So in translation for all the nerds and everyone listening, laser tag was like airsoft and paintball, but like inside arcades, and it was a lot of fun, even though the lasers and the targets sucked. But
really, you played some really bad laser tag, dude. Because Laser Storm,
we had Power Station, and
dude, let's not talk about that. Let's not
right,
talk about
Jason.
That let's not talk about that.
So we just didn't get good stuff.
So partially, I used to work for the company, but I used to work for Laser Storm. Used to one of the stores in Longmont.
You would that was your high school job, wasn't it? Oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
Okay. That's so funny.
That's actually, for some of those listeners that have known me for a long time and known me, my whole tag handle was Nightblade. That's what a lot of people used to call me by, and that's
Nightblade.
Which you want to go nerd wise, it's because I got that from, it is one of the classes in Daggerfall from Bethesda, Elder Scrolls 2.
Oh, okay. I didn't play it.
I'm just mad. I'm just going to play Nightblade tonight. Just
Nightblade. I love it.
Nightblade. But no, we used to go and we used to play, and it was a lot of fun. But I mean, really, I'm getting tired of us having to either talk about the violence against blacks and Asians, and now it's just, this was senseless violence. This guy walked in to a store 6 days earlier, bought an AR-15. And with the sole and purposes of driving into Boulder from Aurora or Nevada, one of the 8 ones out there, and shoot up the store. That was their plan. We don't know anything beyond that right now. Today, as we record this, was supposed to be his first day in court. But here's the thing is, I get it with the gun rights and everything like that, but something has to be done, because we cannot go back to having weekly attacks on just communities. These people were walking into a grocery store and were shot. And for anybody that knows and what an AR-15 is, yes, I get it, semi-automatic, let's set it away, is the way the guns are rifled, which, Jerry, you've got one, right?
Yes, I built one.
So the rifling on the barrel, though, is designed to tear through things, correct? When that bullet is fired. Okay. So when you have somebody that goes to buy a gun specifically that is to deal damage, the way the rifling the round is designed. Okay. I'm not saying the gun itself, right? Because honestly, it's whatever this person was dealing with, they needed help.
It's the shooter, but
I understand the gun design. But
how did someone in that state acquire the weapons?
Correct. And I think that's what I'm getting at. And I think I'm not saying we need to take away guns. Absolutely not. Because I think everybody has the right to bear arms. And I think that was purposely built into the Constitution by our founding fathers. But the problem is that how is it that 6 days prior to this shooting, somebody walked into a store, bought an AR-15 with the intent to go and kill? And that's the thing, is we have to tighten up some gun laws to make sure that people like this don't have access to guns. I mean, and we have politicians out there that are comparing this to drunk driving. But the thing is, guys, we have to register our cars. We have to have a driver's license. We have to keep all that stuff current to stay on the road. So I don't see what the big deal is with having to register your firearms. Because that was, I mean, one of the things you were looking at, Jerry, to be the responsible gun owner was to register your guns in Arizona. Which, come to find out, you don't have to.
Yeah. That was actually quite the surprise, because I'm, coming from California, they have stricter laws, but then, I didn't know what they were out in Arizona, but I naturally just want to make sure all of my paperwork, everything's, says that I own it.
Which is responsible it's responsible to do.
So I wanted to register both of my firearms and just to get it out of the way, and if then in case anything happens, but I've come to find out I don't need to, and it's actually that's kind of feels kind of weird. It's actually kind of weird, like even being a gun owner, like I do.
And here's the thing to me too, is because it came out as they've been releasing the victim names here and there, is one of the victims. Now, granted, I didn't know them, but they were a graduate 10 years prior of my high school.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So people in the town I grew up and went to high school in, went to middle school, elementary school in, people knew this person. And now their life is, their parents had to bury them. As in John Q, the fantastic quote in that movie is, a parent should not have to bury their child. It should be the child burying the parent. And I think at some point we have to, as a country, follow the lead of a lot of these other countries in the world that don't have mass shootings, that still have gun rights. Because right now, as the pandemic is starting to loosen, as we get vaccinated, all of a sudden now we have 100 million shots that have been given out for the vaccine already. And in the press conference today, Biden has said he's going for 200 million within the first 100 days of him being in office with these vaccines. So as this is starting to loosen, you have all these different states now starting to get rid of the mask mandates and all of that.
Yep.
People are starting to get out now. And all of a sudden, guess what? We haven't had a mass shooting in a long time during this pandemic. And then all of a sudden we've got 2 in a week.
It's like everyone's getting stir crazy from being inside. It's kind of getting, it's a little ridiculous, man. And
we shouldn't have to talk about this anymore as a country.
No, not at all.
For me, Boulder is such it is. I mean, for people that know the name Boulder, right? It's pretty much a college town. It is built. I mean, it's built up, but CU, Colorado University, is at the heart of this university, this town. But it is a smaller town. I mean, they purposely don't build new subdivisions and everything like that because they have a law that says you have to build on existing property. So if you're going to build a new store, guess what? You have a piece of property that already has a store on it. You have to tear that building down and build new right then and there. You cannot just acquire property and start building out. Like you start seeing all these subdivisions going out, going up around the country, right? So it is a smaller town. My dad lives there. Granted, they're on the other end of Boulder and we're away from this, but, to me, that worries me that, this could have been the King Soopers on their end of town.
Yeah.
Their Safeway. Something's got to give. And I hope the politicians just stop bickering and actually do what's right for the country. Because honestly, we are the laughing stock of the world when, honestly, I sit there and I go on TikTok and stuff like that, and I see posts about people going, well, hey, guess what? Look, COVID's coming, leaving the, coming down in the US. So guess what? Here's the return to weekly, mass shootings, and it needs to stop. And what's sad is I found out is Colorado ranks one of the highest in the state for mass shootings too. And when you think about it, guys, some of the biggest shootings that have happened since 99 have been in Colorado.
Yep.
True.
Columbine.
Yep.
Aurora Theater shooting. There was the the tech school that was down in South Denver that got, shot up. There was the Planned Parenthood killings down in Colorado Springs. You can go on, and they're ranked one of the highest. I think something does really got to stop. And hopefully politicians do it.
If anyone needs any motivation, watch the footage. There was footage of hearing the shots inside the store and people running and it's scary.
And here's the thing, guys.
Even through the footage, you feel the fear.
And here's the other thing with this, and we'll end on this piece, is that the argument has always been, well, if you have an armed population, good guys with guns can stop something like this. Well, guess what? There was a good guy with a gun there. It was a City of Boulder police officer, and he was shot dead. So regardless if you are a good guy with a gun or not, you are still going to be a victim. So we have to do something. We can't use these arguments anymore. And my thoughts go out to all those families that were impacted, even to the City of Boulder. But honestly, all these families that have been victims of mass shootings, they're tired of hearing this. Well, our prayers go out to the thoughts and family, but we still need you to keep all your guns. We're not going to do anything. We're going to keep going to status quo. That being said, I want to turn some happier news that happened that day. And a good friend of the podcast, Drew Kreisman, who's been on a couple of times. We had him on for the Final Fantasy reunion episode right there at the holidays. I was on the DNVR gaming podcast with him not too long ago, but Drew got engaged. To his girlfriend of 7 years.
Congrats, man.
Congratulations, Drew.
Happy nuptials.
I know, Drew, you guys kind of fought back and forth with that decision on whether or not to even announce the news. But honestly, I think it was a good thing you guys did announce it, because honestly, people need to understand that there's still hope in the world, that things can still happen that are joyous and happy and full of love.
Definitely, man.
Yep.
All news doesn't have to be dark,
Correct.
like
yeah.
But shout out to Drew, man. Hey, Drew, welcome to the team, man. Welcome to the
welcome to the team.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations.
Jerry's
I'm good.
Like, well,
I'm good.
I'm
all right. But happy nuptials.
Jerry's like, hey, I got nobody to compete against the presidency of the single man's club there.
Which I'm still president. Still president.
I want to give a shout out to Danny Pena, who we had on a couple weeks ago. He kind of went out today and he kind of put out a video. It was good, about 3 minutes. So talking about promoting positivity and supporting people in the community as far as podcasting and stuff goes, that when they do reach milestones, get recognition that they really do deserve for all the hard work they did, to start propping that up, because it's oftentimes we talk about the negative that we out there that we're having to defend, like, content creators coming under attack, which is something we talked about with Aaron Kaufman in our interview from Square Enix. But we need to also promote the positives when people are accomplishing things. Because in that same vein, and this is shout outs that I plan to do even before I saw this video, was the fact is Khalif Adams, friend of the show, was on last month. Him, along with shout outs to Greg Miller, who we got to meet at E3. Him and Tim Gaze, fantastic people. Greg is amazing to talk to.
Yeah, funny dudes. Been a fan of Miller's for years, since IGN, bro.
So
shout out.
Greg Miller, along with Jessica Chobot and Khalif, are going to be hosting this year's DICE Awards.
Nice.
So
congrats, Khalif.
Super congrats to Khalif and Greg and Jessica on becoming the hosts this year. Granted, it is going to be all digital and it's not going to be live, live studio audience, so to speak. Yeah. But congrats. Khalif deserves all the accolades he's been getting lately, between being featured on a billboard for Twitch out in Times Square, hosting the DICE Awards. He is an amazing human being that is a fantastic guy, knows his gaming, cares about the communities, lifting people up. So Cleve, congratulations from the CGN
You
family.
deserve it, dude.
Definitely,
Nobody
man.
deserves it more.
Yep.
Congrats. That's amazing, dude. And
Yep.
Congrats,
and good luck.
Khalif.
Good luck being in front of camera because it's different. So yeah,
congrats,
man.
100 times congrats, but I'm still irked on that drop mix, man. I'm still on the hunt for those cards.
That's so funny.
I bought some earlier today.
You did.
I told you. Okay, I didn't wait for it to tomorrow.
That's so funny.
Cleve, if you're hanging out there, you listen to this later. I told you when we.
Yeah.
I DM'd you and told you started something really bad with Jason.
God.
Right there. So, and then lastly, I want to give a shout out to Andrew Renee from What's Good Games. She's another person that is super nice. Loves,
she was really nice.
Gaming. We got to meet E3. The last E3 we went to, like all of us went to, 2019. But she just had a lengthy stint in the hospital, had to have some surgery. She is home now. So Andrea from the CGN family to you. We wish you nothing but a speedy recovery, and we hope to see you back on with the girls from What's Good Games recording the podcast again.
Yeah.
And seeing you up and healthy.
Heal up, get strong.
So with that, Jerry and I yesterday got to interview Aaron Kaufman, who is the director of social and community for Square Enix. So I want to go ahead and play that interview for you guys, because unfortunately we couldn't do it live like we do with most of our guests. The only other time we haven't had a guest live, so to speak, is when we got to interview Julian Garrity, creative director for The Division at Ubisoft. That's so, it seems so, it's long ago. The Division. We've been talking about this for a while, Jason.
Hey. Guess who's playing The Division right now? This guy.
Yeah. So rude.
Division 2.
So anyway, so let me go ahead and we'll go ahead and share that clip for you guys now. Just give everybody that's watching in the channel. This is about a 40-minute interview. It was originally scheduled for 30, but as always, things go off rails. Sometimes we start talking about other things and whatnot. So
really off the rails.
Anyway, so I hope
just the tab.
God, Jerry, I haven't had to do an actual recorded session on Zoom in ages since we moved over to Twitch. Wow. So cool. All right, we are recording. So cool. Let me go and do the intro and we'll get started. All right, everybody. Hey, Matt Turio and Gerard Burra here, Crashing Game Night. We are hanging out with Aaron Kaufman, Director of Social and Community for Square Enix today. How are you doing today, Aaron?
Got my COVID gray hairs coming in, the hair. I was gonna take a shower.
We all are, baby. It's okay. It's all right.
I was like, nobody's gonna mind that I look pretty disheveled, and so it's all good.
It's the COVID life. I mean, we're all used to it by now after a year. So
you guys look far better than I do. So
thank you, man. You look great for the morning. No.
Oh, thanks.
I mean, the reason Jerry looks better is because he's got a beanie. He takes that beanie off, and that whole mop of a hair, you could build a bird's nest in it. So
it's everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just thinking it's just his superpower that makes him smile all the time. So
it really is. I never leave out without my beanie or a hat. Something.
Every time I wear a beanie, like my hair gets super flat, and I'm the kind of person that gets hot really easy. Like, I don't know about you guys, like I sleep with like one leg outside my bed and like one arm over here, and I switch, and like I get hot really easy. So I like beanies, but it's got to be really, really cold, and it's definitely not really cold.
No. This, for the most part, are like Amazon exclusive, like oversized thin beanies that breathe. It's just to tame the hair. That's all it is.
Okay, well, we can just talk about that for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
Right.
General aesthetic.
I mean, we don't need to talk about. Jerry talks about his beanies all the time. So
I'll remember that, Jerry. When
it's a thing.
Some Square Enix beanies. I'll be thinking of you.
I'm down.
Right?
Down.
So for everybody out there, listener-wise, and those that will be watching when we record everything tomorrow night on Twitch, give everybody your background a little bit. So you started really, with EA back in 2004 as global community manager, which even then, I mean, looking at the bios and everything, that wasn't really a thing back then. You kind of helped pioneer community manager and stuff with them. And you were associate producer. And then in 2010, you moved over to THQ to be social media manager of the UFC and the WWE games. And then from 2012 to 2020, you were with PlayStation.
Yeah, I was. That was probably I've had an incredible run so far, and this past year and a half at Square, year and change, has been amazing. But my heart is still very much with Santa Monica Studio. That was that's definitely been awesome. That's definitely been the career highlight so far. I know there's many great things to come, but that's those guys, like what they're doing over there is unreal. So a lot to look forward to.
That's so cool. And it kind of, can you elaborate on the WWE and UFC? Did you get to did you get to do
okay, so the absolute best story I have, and I love telling this one. So I was at THQ for 2 years, and a really good friend of mine, Bryce Yang, who's still there. He's the director of marketing for the WWE games and now the PGA 2K. And he and I worked at EA together for quite a while. And when he left EA, he had kind of tried to pull me over to THQ because there was no really dedicated community manager for the WWE games and what was then UFC Undisputed. And so I had kind of run my course at EA, great time there, learned a lot, and it was time to move on. And so went over to THQ, and I was effectively the global community manager of all the WWE and UFC games. And through that role, I got to interview and hang out and engage with a lot of the WWE superstars and the UFC fighters. And I remember one of my first interviews was with Sheamus, and nice. I was wearing sandals at the time with a t-shirt and jeans, and it was on the E3 show floor, and he calls me Tank because my handle was named Just Tank, and he got to know me over the couple of years because I would see him at different events, and that was very cool. But he would always remember me by wearing my sandals. And the WWE would pick on me. They'd be like, who's that community manager that comes kind of half dressed.
They always the one time you wear sandals, and that's the one thing they remember.
Yeah. But the best story, frankly, is towards the end of my time at THQ, and a lot of my close friends and my followers on Twitter know this because I celebrated almost annually in his honor. I was given a last minute opportunity from Bryce to we were working on a game called WWE All Stars, which you might have played, and Bryce wasn't feeling too well, and he was supposed to go fly over to Tampa, Florida to film a trailer with Macho Man Randy Savage. And he asked me at the last second, he's like, hey, do you want to get on a red eye and fly out to Tampa and go hang out with Macho Man, his wife, his mom, and produce this trailer? And I was nervous as hell. I was like, what? You want me to go produce the trailer with Macho Man? But I was also excited. I was like, yeah, hell yeah, let's go. And so literally the day he asked me, I got on a plane on a red eye, flew to Florida. The next day, I went to Macho Man's house out kind of in the boondocks of Tampa. And I was there for 3 hours. It was like we were brothers by the time I left there.
That's awesome.
He had been more warm and amazing. And he was everything the hero and kind of larger than life being that you could ever imagine. And we filmed a trailer, and it's still online today. And I got to basically direct Macho Man. And actually, they're in my cabinet here. I've got the script that we wrote together. He wrote it on notebook paper. Oh, wow. And right now, I'm going to put them on the spot. The WWE Hall of Fame actually is looking to potentially acquire these pieces of paper which I'm happy to give to them. Of course I want WrestleMania ringside,
Yeah.
obviously, right?
Okay, hold on. WrestleMania ringside post-COVID, when you can actually be there in person.
SoFi Stadium,
Yeah.
2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome, man.
So, I mean, I'm gonna try and negotiate with them. They don't know that yet, but maybe now they live in public. But I got to. It's great when you're a social media manager and you work on really anything, right? You get a lot of cool experiences that people may not expect, like even just being able to interview developers. I worked with Corey Barlog for over 7 years at Santa Monica Studio.
He is amazing.
Nicest dude. Nicest dude.
Yep.
He is definitely the nicest dude. And just being able to get to know him and being able to kind of, interview and be part of that culture and have those opportunities and get to know your developers, inside out, who, the fans on the other side kind of, look up to, again, as like superheroes and these incredible people that make, the world's best games. And so, that's cool. And another opportunity that I was very, very fortunate to have at PlayStation. A lot of times social media manager, you get to travel, where your game goes, you go. And a lot of, that could be going to Gamescom in Germany. It could be sometimes, the marketing team would ask me, can you go to, I think it was like Nashville, to the GameStop conference and present the game to 300 GameStop managers.
Wow.
But the coolest, the single coolest travel experience I've had in my career, because of what I do, I was given the opportunity for God of War when we were doing our press tour around the world, about a month before the launch came out. Corey and our design director at the time, Derek Daniels, they were going to go cover Europe. They were basically splitting the north and south of Europe to go take the game around to press. Well, somebody at the same exact time had to go to Asia, and the development team was trying to finalize the game. And it wasn't like I was the first person in line to go to Asia, but because the development team was so focused, there was nobody that could be elected to go because they had to, squash the bugs and finish the game. So they asked me, they said, Aaron, could you go represent the studio and the game on our Asia press tour for God of War?
Wow.
And it was the coolest experience ever. It was 11 days.
Awesome.
In 11 days, I went to Tokyo, Hong Kong, Seoul, Taipei, Singapore, Sydney, Australia, and back home. I hit all those places.
Damn.
And
that's a schedule, but that's got to be fun though.
It was amazing. I got to taste the culture, learn the culture, present our game in different languages. And so when you're a social media manager, it's not to say that you're going to get to go travel, you're going to get to hang with your favorite developers all the time, but those are definitely fringe benefits that come by way of being in a role like this. And I'm super fortunate and appreciative. And there's plenty of those fringe benefits here at Square Enix as well, just by doing what we do. Number one, I get to be here and talk to you guys, which is amazing.
Right? It is.
That's awesome, man.
Now, when you look at social media and stuff, and some of the things you've done with building up different components, right, through the companies you've been with, what is now like the biggest challenge now to building up the social media presence and the community presence when you look at the current climate? Is Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, every day looks like you've got Clubhouse now starting up. What is the biggest challenges that you guys have as a social media team?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's I think staying focused is the toughest challenge, right? Because there are new applications and social media channels that are popping up, it seems, left and right. You're right. Clubhouse is the new hot tool. And, Twitter themselves has live spaces now also that certain people are getting access to, that is essentially a mirror of what Clubhouse is, but on Twitter. Facebook and Snapchat and WhatsApp and Discord and Twitch and TikTok. And the list goes on, and Twitter and and Instagram stories and Twitter fleets. And so you look at, as a social media manager, you look at all these tasty, shiny new cars, right? And I think as a social manager, it's difficult sometimes when you're looking at all these things and you see the Netflixes and the Disneys and the HBOs and the NFLs of the world, seem to be kind of optimizing on a lot of these platforms at the same time. And I can't help but admit that I get some envy at times. I'm like, man, like, look what they're doing, look what they're doing, look what they're doing. And it's coming in my feed every 2 seconds. And it's not to say that those guys are doing all those different things. It's just to say that when I'm looking at my social feed and I see all the cool shit that's happening out there, I am always struggling to keep myself focused. Like, keep your eyes on the prize, right? Like, the prize right now is Square Enix. What is right for us? What are the best channels for us where our fans are, where we can make the biggest impact? Something here at Square that I know a lot of companies do is, when we're looking at any of our games and we're going to decide to start a social media channel for it, let's take Forspoken, right? That just was announced. No, I can't get into
amazing, by the way. Absolutely cannot wait for that game.
It's Luminous Productions who's creating it. I just started to get to know them a little bit. The marketing team, everybody behind that game. I can't say a word further, but I can tell you it's special. It's going to be cool. But let's take a game like that, for example. And when we're months ago talking about like what social channels are we going to launch for Forspoken, right? Like, is it Twitter? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it TikTok? Not to get into like the weeds on it, but we go through like, what are the fundamentals of each of these channels? What is the way we want to land there, right? We know Twitter is by far and away the single best place on social media to have a conversation.
Right.
That's my opinion. I mean, sure, we can look at Discord. That's a real-time chat room. But I truly think like where the most frequent, vibrant, rush hour traffic is, it's on Twitter. You post something up on Twitter, boom, you've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 replies. You want to be right in there in the engagement, replying. You guys know what I'm all about. It's like sitting at that dinner table, having a cup of coffee with your fans. That's our mantra, right? And so we think about that through the eyes of Forspoken, and we're like, okay, this is what the marketing campaign looks like. This is the marketing strategy. What channels make the most sense? And we landed on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for various different reasons. And so we go through that process. But Clubhouse, what am I gonna do on Clubhouse? Yeah.
So you basically answered what was going to be my next question. Was like, I was going to ask, do you feel obligated to have to get on all of these platforms and feel like an obligation to like post on everything, but really you assess what is the best way to get it out in a broader way and to not have to go on every one of those platforms?
Yeah, I think again, like the hottest social media place to be right now is TikTok, easily, right? And so I've been looking at TikTok for 6 months. I have a partner contact, a great woman named Tiffany Wu, who works at ByteDance, that is my lead partner contact. I have partner contacts at each of the social channels that I stay in touch with, and they're always in their best of friendly lobbying ways, saying, hey, we've got this new feature on our platform, check this out. And so Tiffany and I have been talking for 6 months about how and when can we land Square Enix on TikTok, right? Like, and I'm looking at Xbox, who's doing a phenomenal job on TikTok. I think they're just nailing it, right? And I kind of aspire to them. PlayStation's on there too. There's not a lot of game brands on TikTok yet. A lot of entertainment, sports brands, but for TikTok in particular, I know that I can take these little gameplay nostalgic moments and create meme fun stuff, and that could be cool. but is that the right thing? Like, is that how I want the impression of Square Enix to be seen on TikTok, which is this platform that's all about fun and music and kind of how-to videos and making you laugh and kind of lo-fi garage shop type approach. But once I go on TikTok, and this is another thing to consider, it's not to say it's a bad resource hog, but it's a resource hog. You can't just go on a social channel, start there, and then not show up often, and it becomes a dead elephant graveyard.
Correct.
You know, the algorithm is going to kick you in the ass, and you're going to get nothing there. Even if you're Square Enix, maybe, you know, Square Enix, we can take our name for granted and put something up, and we'll get good engagement. But if we don't keep it up, we're gonna plateau real quick.
And I think that's
Go ahead.
I think because I do most of our social, you know, for the podcast between Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and all that, is like TikTok is the hardest beast out of all of them, because to your point, algorithms, because if you're not in there posting at least 3 videos a day, the algorithm does forget you. I don't have the time.
Is it 3?
Yeah, it's a minimum of 3. That's the way, like all the huge content creators have said, you minimally need to post 3 you know, videos of some sort every single day to keep within that algorithm. I don't have that cycle right now between family, work, the podcast, doing all of that stuff, to really be on there 3 times a day posting videos, you know. To me, I think Twitter, like you said, Twitter is an amazing place, you know, for engagement. And even like that's how we've been able to get some of the, like even the Final Fantasy VII guys on the podcast was because of Twitter. You know, was just reaching out.
It's still the platform where you can get to the closest of who you want to be your subject, or, you know, who you're following. You could genuinely really talk to them if, you know, if they're listening.
Yep.
And that's also what I was kind of aiming at. So when it comes to deciding a platform, you really have to assess, because you guys go gung ho on it, and it's a commitment. Like, you can't just post here and there.
That's right. Yeah. So for TikTok, for example, you know, one of my goals this year is to get on TikTok, but I need to make sure that, you know, my team is ready. I'm ready. We have a content pipeline that's ready. We've got maybe our first 10 posts that are ready. We know what is our tone? What's our content strategy? You know, there's
right.
Over the course of my career, there's been plenty of times where, again, the new shiny social channel object appears. And even for myself, you want to be first. You want to go grab your Twitter username. I've been on Twitter since Twitter started, right? But I haven't had a brand that's been on Twitter since Twitter started. It takes time to build. When I came into Santa Monica Studio, we had I think when I started there in 2012, there was a Twitter account. It was probably a few thousand followers, and it was essentially being used by the HR team for recruiting, which is perfectly fine. That's not a bad thing, but there was nothing else there. The studio had 0 social media presence. And so over the course of the 7 years that I was there, I built up our social channels, Twitter notably, from effectively 0 to over 300,000 followers by the time I left. But that took 7 years.
Yeah.
and sure, you can get lucky. Like last week, we did a Tomb Raider giveaway heading into our Square Enix Presents that you probably saw. And we said, follow our account, #Square Enix Presents, and reply to us, and we'll give you a free code for a Tomb Raider PC game. Now, again, taking for granted that we're Square Enix and we have a good kind of organic following, we grew 200,000 followers overnight, which is like absolutely, that's insane, right? Like in my wildest dreams, I didn't expect that. And you know, when kind of the dust settled and the kind of the happiness of that moment, you know, kind of like went away, I said, oh shit, I've got 200,000 new followers, but now I have to keep them. And you know, yes, we are getting some unfollows since then, right? I mean, how would you not? Like, you just come to get a free thing and then you leave, right? I understand that.
Yep.
But now as your growth gets bigger, your engagement gets smaller because the algorithm makes it harder for you to reach all of your people without starting to put paid media. So, it's like, it's almost like better when you're smaller because you get that like tight knit family engagement, and the larger you become, the more spread out and the harder it becomes to like talk to everybody. That's an interesting social media thing.
You kind of lose that personal touch a little bit the bigger you grow, right?
You do. And I want to grow to 10 million. Okay. I don't want to not stop growing. It's just to say that in social media, it's interesting that a lot of times we focus on growth when what we really want to be focusing on is our engagement rate. That's kind of the new shiny phrase of the past few years. Yes, I'm happy we're 900,000 plus, but if my engagement rate goes from 5% to 3%, I'm not happy. So now I got to figure out, how do I cover that delta, even though now I've grown, and I don't want to lose sight of our identity, who we are, and still be true to that. So that's just a bit of a ramble for, some of the different ways we think.
Now, when you look at your social media engagement and stuff like that, one thing I want to ask you is, like, how do you feel when you see that some of your guys' biggest supporters in terms of like content creators, looking at like Night Sky Prince, Soldier First Class, Untitled, to name a few, is like when you see them come under attack by some of Square's fans and stuff, how does it make you guys feel as like from a social media and community perspective, that you see some of those guys, after coming attack from certain segments of the population, that they decide they want to stop making content?
Oh, that's a sad topic. This idea of like cancel culture, cancel people, right? Like, people kind of coming under attack for all kinds of different things, whether what you believe in, your politics, your race, your games you love, right? Like this character versus that character. And suddenly it becomes like this very serious, online battle or conversation. I have a lot of empathy for our creators, our influencers that, pour blood, sweat, and tears into, Alex McCullough, right? Creating amazing music every week, it seems like, for Square Enix. Yorha on Twitter, who is one of our absolute biggest fans, that's sometimes creating fan art. Untitled, like you mentioned, amazing streamer, right? What a lovely woman, and she's doing incredible things. And everybody's got their own personalities and their own beliefs and things like that. I think when our creators, unfortunately have, different dynamics with our fans and whatnot, it's difficult as a brand to like come in and intersect and be the mediator, because you're never going to win. It's like, you say one thing, these 10 other people say another, and suddenly you find that your brand is in the mix of this argument, right? And so that's a tight rope to walk. And I think, while I feel a lot of empathy for that, I trust in the creators to kind of do what's best for them, and make the right decisions. And if the right decision is, I cannot sustain doing this under this kind of pressure, then that's okay. Like, you got to do what's best for you. You got kids, family, your life on the outside. If this is your passion, and for whatever reason it's not working out, I think as a brand, I would love to be in a place where, and I think it would be case by case, if I could have that personal interaction and maybe even talk offline with that person and say, hey, I can't necessarily get in the middle of this, right? I've got to worry about my home base over here, but you are also one of our most important fans and you do incredible things. What can I do to help you? Is there anything I can do? I haven't exactly been in that specific position, but I think, again, unfortunately, as a brand, I think you have to pick and choose, what are the poker chips you're going to play? What are the conversations, the tough ones, that you're going to be a part of, that you're going to take a stand in, and for us, that's, getting rid of Asian hate, Black Lives Matter, Pride Month, right? For us, that's, equality and, celebrating all our fans, no matter who you are. we have an influencer team, and they're amazing. Nell, Kat, and Adam, and they are, far be it from me to suggest, what we do in these kinds of situations when, they are the agents, they are the kind of the relationship holders, with all of our most amazing creators out there. And I depend and trust in them to, to figure out what the right decision is. Sometimes they'll come to us and say, hey, we're having this issue. Do you think the Square Enix Twitter account can, help amplify this person and give them a little bit more love and exposure? Or, what do you think about this? And one last thing I'll say is that, and some people may disagree with this, but, a lot of people, we like to say, like, all opinions, are my own, in my Twitter bio, right? But when you work at a brand, no matter who you are, yes, all opinions are your own, but all opinions can sometimes connect back to, affecting me and the brand and other people that work here. We are all one family. Doesn't matter what brand you work under. When you go out to the world and you say something, it can reflect upon your brand, right? And that's not to say we shouldn't have our right to say what we want to say. Everybody should, go out there and do it. We all kind of like, walk that line of what level of risk do we want to have. But I think when you're a social media manager, you also have to kind of be mindful of that, right? Because you're representing the company. And so that's also a tightrope to walk. But I love the day and age that we're in right now, where we're all getting out there and celebrating our beliefs and being passionate. And I'm not one to shy away from that. I like to just express that, my brothers and sisters sitting next to me here, I have to think about them when I'm out in the world doing what I do.
And that's an amazing point of view to have.
Well said.
Now I know we gotta get you out of here because you've got the rest of your day to go with, but
we can do 5.
So what is some of the biggest advice you can give to somebody that wants to move into being in a social media role for a company in the gaming industry? What's some of that biggest advice that you can give? You just touched on some of it right there by saying, make sure you walk, you got to represent the brand too, but what kind of advice do you have for them?
Well, I think first and foremost is practice the art, right? Like, the thousands of creators out there that are running their Twitch channels, building up their, their brand. I mean, they're doing it better than I am. Like, holy crap, like, look at Dr. Lupo. I mean,
yeah.
Oh my God. Like, if I could be Dr. Lupo in my role right now and raise millions of dollars and have that kind of following, wow. Like, really, wow. So I think number one is get passionate about social media. Like, understand the landscape. Go find, 10 of your favorite brands. For me, it's Disney, Netflix, HBO, the NFL, the San Francisco Giants, the San Francisco 49ers, the Golden State Warriors. I'm sharing my sports beliefs here.
We need to talk about that.
Go find your
not bad
brands.
choices. Not bad.
Find your favorite brands and see what they're doing on social media. How are they representing themselves? Learn and get inspired from that. Study the tools, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, stay on the cutting edge of what's new. Clubhouse, right? Like, bookmark some sites that are going to tell you, from the For Dummies 101 to, advanced stuff like socialmediaexaminer.com, later.com. Those are 2 great sites that have amazing blogs for social media tips and for dummies, kind of how to do things, right? So that's baseline. Get your foundation. To actually segue into the game industry as a social media manager, there's 1,000,001 different ways that can happen. When people ask me this question, some of the recommendations that I give are a few of the following. 1, it is true, getting into QA and being a game tester can lead to just about any job in the game industry. So if you can get your foot in the door, whether it's as a QA position or an internship or the mailroom, whatever it is, you get your foot in the door at a developer or publisher. Your goal is to kick ass at that job, whatever it is you're doing. But your bigger goal is to network the F out of the people around you go have lunch and coffee, be the nicest person in the building, and try to get to know the person who you want to be. So when I was at Santa Monica Studio, there were people on the QA team who would sometimes come to me and be like, hey, if you ever have an opening, I'd love to work with you. I'd go have lunch, coffee, I developed a friendship. And, you know, before you know it, maybe when that opening happens, you know, there's something there. So that's one inroad, right? And it's not the easiest, but because it's not the easiest, because everybody's trying to do that.
Yeah.
Another way that I think is kind of a couple different ways that I think are less traveled. I've seen some folks come up through the editorial space, you know, even like what you guys are doing. By virtue of your podcast, no matter how big or small it is, and your Twitch show, we've connected. Now I know you, Matt. Now I know you, Gerard.
Yep.
And maybe one day you guys are going to come to me and be like, Aaron, I saw this position open at Square Enix for a social media manager, you know, love to apply. Like, dude, Matt, I love what you're doing with your podcast, what you're building up. You know, you definitely got it. Like, let me get you in the interview cycle and let's talk. So, you know, I think doing things like this, or if you're at a GameSpot or an IGN, or you can get in with an editorial place, a lot of times, you know, all those places are networking with marketer and PR and social media folks on the other side. So, you know, sometimes you should think about, can I get a job where that entity is networking with people in the gaming industry, and I'm going to develop that relationship. The third and final way I would say is, go be part of the community that you want to work in. So if you're a massive Battlefield fan, or Fortnite, or Square Enix, right? Like, go become one of the core followers and figure out a way to get to know the me behind the veil, right? Behind the curtain. You know, you could be someone on Reset Era or Discord who's so vocal and active that the community manager may want to reach out to and be like, hey, I really appreciate your opinion. And suddenly you're developing a relationship there, and that might lead to something. So I think what I'm getting at is, you know, sure, you can go throw your resume into the pile, right? And it's, you know, it's going to Vegas and playing roulette unless your resume really sticks out, right? But I think the best way to try to get, and frankly, almost any job, it's relationship building and finding those unique avenues to figure out a way to build a relationship with the person on the other side who you want to be, but also recognizing that that person is probably getting pelted by 10 other people. So how do you make your presence felt, or, you know, without being a jerk or egotistical, and how can you somehow bridge a connection there? And that's not easy. But I've done that with a number of people over the years, and a number of which who have gone on to see, you know, become very successful. One is Manny Perez, who I was just texting with last night. He's a community manager at Bethesda. I didn't help him get that job. I didn't help him get that job, but he's someone that initially reached out to me, and we developed a friendship through social media and got to know each other, had some phone calls, and I just saw a spark there. I saw something unique and interesting, and I forgot how he got the job at Bethesda, but when he did, I was super proud of him. And he texted me last night and we were just chatting, and maybe one day we'll be working together. Who knows?
I think that you talk about something like that, like just getting to know people. And I think you look at with us, like Soldier First Class, who's huge on the Square Enix, you know, with Final Fantasy front, but like John Eric Bentley played Barrett in FF7. Like, we met him at the demo at E3. And by just talking through social media and everything, we've developed that friendship. And now, I mean, I consider him, you know, a close friend now. You know, it's to the point where, you know, we're all sitting there talking about, once I get moved to Phoenix, you know, end of next month, that, hey, when are we all getting together? You know, we were all in LA. The whole podcast was in LA back in September, and we all went to lunch, you know, with John and Osley Matthews. And it's just amazing that those opportunities, like, even though you're not doing it for, you know, purposes like, hey, my sole purpose to getting to know you is because I want your, the job you do, but it's more just to deal with it on a, well, and some people there are, but for me, it's like, hey, I just want to get to know you, you the person,
know what you're about. Yeah.
What you're about, what you do for your job. Right. Is it nice to say, yeah, I know an actor in Hollywood, I'm good friends with him? Sure. But to me, it's like, hey, you're family, I call you up. Hey, how the kids doing? How's their basketball, whatever. And we rarely talk shop, we rarely talk about any, acting gigs or anything like that. He comes up unless, he brings it up. And it's because it's like, I care about you as a person, not kind of what you do. Right.
Well, I want to end on a story that's exactly that. So there's a guy, well, he's one of my best friends. His name is Matt Everett. He goes by Sledgehammer on Twitter. He's an amazing human being. And I met Matt in 2005 at EA. I was working on Lord of the Rings, Battle of Middle-earth. That was the first game I ever worked on. Nice. Before I transitioned over to Command and Conquer, because the Command and Conquer team, after they finished Command and Conquer 3, they went to go make Lord of the Rings Battle of Middle-earth, the RTS game, and then back to Command and Conquer. Sorry, after Command and Conquer Generals, they went to that, and then we went to Command and Conquer 3. But anyways, during that time, Matt, he was starting a fan site for our game. He was a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Wow.
And back in that time when there was no, Twitter, Twitch, whatever, there was IRC chat rooms and there's fan sites. And I don't remember how, but he and I got acclimated because I was EA APOC on the message boards, and I'd always see this guy Sledgehammer commenting and, sometimes dissing our game or saying things. I was like, clearly this person is someone important. So I used to run community days back then, which today you would call an influencer event, which was essentially where we'd find 15 of our most important fans running fan sites, etc., invite them to our studio, have them play our game, wine and dine, treat them like press, treat them amazing, right? Feedback, all that stuff. Well, Matt was someone who I brought out to a couple of those events. And when we interacted in person, I just saw something really special in this guy. Like, I could clearly tell he was ready to go, to the next thing. Like, he's running his fan site, he builds computers, he eventually started like running tournaments. And I was like, man, like this dude is driven. And so a few years in, when there was an opening at EA on the EA mobile, as that division was building up, they were looking for a community manager, and I referred him. I was like, he's running these incredible fan sites over here. He's working for this LAN cafe tournament place, running tournaments. And long story short, he got the job and he moved out here to, he was living in Temecula, and he was like commuting from Temecula to LA every day. But what matters most is that job turned into almost an 8-year run for him at EA. Wow. And he went on to become one of EA's greatest community managers ever, overseeing Battlefield, Apex Legends, Star Wars Battlefront. I mean,
that's amazing.
He was someone that they didn't want to leave. He left, not because he didn't like EA, but he's actually kind of part starting his own business now, working with another founder of an automotive company. And the best part about this whole entire story, we're talking 15 years ago now, is he's one of my closest friends. And I've been there with him to hang out with his kids and his beautiful baby girl, Kara, that was just born. And we text, and it's all because of that, what we started 15 years ago, that spark, right? And so to me, like, that's the ultimate, right? Like, not only you help someone get in the industry, you become friends. And that gets me kind of emotional, because he's a good dude.
And that's what it's about, though.
That's amazing.
Honestly.
That's awesome. So that's what it's about.
Right. One last question for you as we get out of here and close it out is something we ask of all of our guests. What is your favorite game to play for game night when you actually are able to have game night with family and friends?
What's the family game that
The
ends
family game?
all? Yeah.
Like a video game?
No, it doesn't mean it could be board game,
card
whatever.
game, anything. But what's the family game
What's
night
that?
game that can like end feuds or start feuds
or start them.
Yeah.
Cards Against Humanity with my 5-year-old. I don't know.
Oh, that's fun.
Oh man, I mean, okay. Well, right now at this phase in life, it's trouble because I play that with my son and my wife, and you can play with up to 4 people. So
awesome.
Trouble.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Aaron, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your morning to actually come on and be with us for this. Definitely a lot of insight into kind of the life of the social media managers and stuff.
Top line.
You guys don't have an easy job with this day and age in social media. So absolutely thank you for coming on and being a part of this.
Yeah, thank you for all of the information and you know, thank you so much for coming onto this platform too, because it's hard to get that information out there. A lot of younger people don't know the right steps to try and do what you do, and a lot of that information is kind of hard to find. And thank you for broadening it and you know, answering all those questions for those who might want to go into the same avenue.
Yeah, I hope it helps. It's a really fun role. It never stops. It's 24/7. This is not 9 to 5, and you know, you go home and have a beer or whatever and just hang out.
Right.
Like I do that, but I've got my phone, like, you know, like
right.
this kind of thing. But yeah, my pleasure. Shameless promotion. You can reach me at just_tank at Twitter. Ask me the questions. Fire away. I'm always there. I try my best. I'm really bad at responding sometimes because, you know, sorry, but I'll do my best.
All right. Well, thank you once again.
Thank you again, man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, guys. See you soon.
All right, everybody. So that was our interview with Aaron Kaufman from Square Enix. Great guy. Hope to have him back on again. We can actually talk about more things. And hopefully you can make it, Jason.
Oh my God. Work.
I'm
what
watching. I'm watching you squirm as you're watching that, knowing that we were talking to Square, and you've been saying
not just Square, but like
hire me.
But, Square, please hire me still. Yeah. But like he's like talking about like doing this, and then he's like, yo, make connections with you, Matt and Gerard. I was like, oh my God, I could have been there. I could have been like, yo, man, like so you I don't know, you need anything you need an assistant, you need someone to just like do some mail runs, you know, like right. I'll be a coffee guy, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
But no, to Gerard's point though, it was, I don't know, we can't hear him now.
Oh, there it is. No. Oh, hey, what's going on?
Oh God.
That was a little joke, sorry. No, that was actually really funny.
Frank, yes.
Yeah.
Jason, please hold it up for it. So I want to say though, it was really nice. So like Gerard, you pointed it out though, right? It was really nice to him to actually kind of lay it out going, hey, you need to do A, B, C, D. This is what I recommend, because to your point, right? A lot of this information isn't out there in the world, you know, on how to get into social media content, you know, manager for a company, regardless if it's in the gaming movie industry, it doesn't matter. It's not really out there.
Or that even that job exists. Like that's a real job, and like it's.
I mean, a lot of people know those jobs, and a lot of people feel that like the only way was to be a QA and then work in from a QA, or have like a master's degree in finance and become an accountant for them and such.
Or you know, you go get a degree in media relations or something like that, and have to move into PR and then move from there. So
there are other avenues that you can take now, and there are other ways for you to get into the industries that you want. And but it's still crazy to me that the information is still kind of hard to get. You know, like you said, the only real way a lot of people like say the gaming industry is QA. Like everyone knows about being a tester now, but other than that, like the only thing that I was ever told was you got to know how to code. I was like, okay, so how do I do that? Like now that information is getting out there. So it's great. And it's great when, you know, guests like that can give information out there and inform the people that want to take those avenues.
Yeah, and of course there's like multiple avenues. Artists go one direction, programmers go one directions. It's just eye-opening though, from like him being social media, that like, hey, like we have to start doing these things now. When he's saying like, hey, I know that free game of Tomb Raider, I'm like, man, I missed that. But two, I was like, hey, that's true too. Like the content creators, they sometimes can get in that way as well. And thank you again for giving all that information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the gaming news that's kind of happened over the last couple of days as we close things out tonight. First and foremost, in the realm of GameStop, Reggie Fils-Aimé, who famously joined their board of directors last year, along with doing his Columbia Fellowship, he is leaving the board of directors at the end of June.
High and by.
Wow.
See ya.
Put it on the resume. Like,
does Reggie really need that on his resume?
I know, but I mean, like, what? Like,
I mean, come on.
I
honestly,
what was that like less than a year about? Like, was he just like trying to just see what games all about?
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he thought that it was a toxic company, and
possibly
didn't like the directions that they're going, or is fearful of the directions that they're not going. So
he offered up his advice and said, hey, this is kind of where we should probably go, and they told him to go pound sand. I mean, the guy is a marketing genius when it comes to,
because they're closing down another few hundred stores, and some stores are saying close for like
remodeling and stuff,
because they're trying to figure out what they want to do.
But I think honestly, shutting down some stores is probably a great thing to do for the financial viability of the company. Granted, I don't want to see people lose their jobs in any way, shape, or form. I think those employees should move to the other stores. But literally, from where I live right here, there is a GameStop right across the street, and then I can go 5 minutes down the road and there's another one.
Yeah,
true.
Right
From
down
a
the street, and
business standpoint, all of the stores being closed. IGN actually just reported on it that they're still, as a company, are failing.
Yeah.
And the closing of the stores is really just putting a patch on the wound and slowing the bleeding. So they're still bleeding money. That's even worse.
What's worse is the money they raised as part of all that fiasco with the stock market still didn't help.
Yeah.
I do agree that close a lot of the stores down, not like all of them, but I mean, you're not a Starbucks, man. You sell a goods that are like $60, $70, that if like all three of us go in and buy, let's say, Cyberpunk, which a lot of people probably did, but like, I mean, just for an example, if all three of us buy it from one store for $70, that's it. Like, you're not gonna get, like, I'm not gonna go to another store and say, hey, let me get another copy of that.
Yeah.
So you don't sell like perishable goods. It's like, here it is, you can buy the game, and then ourselves might be like, hey, like, we might sell ourselves, like, because we don't want to play it anymore, like a lot of people, and just like sell it off for like $50 instead of getting the $20 that you would get like in store credit or whatever,
or less, actually.
So I think I think GameStop really needs to look at Blockbuster and what happened with Blockbuster, because it was one of those things that I actually just watched the documentary on Netflix called The Last Blockbuster. God, it made me cry internally seeing some of that. God. I mean, I gotta see. And I still think
I want to see that.
We need to take a trip up to Bend and go see the last store. We really do, before they lose their licensing and stuff for the name. But it was like, at that time when Blockbuster was exploding, there was one Blockbuster opening every 17 hours in the country. And I mean, there was good 6,000 plus stores. But the problem is, like, when you looked at where my store was out in Colorado, we had two stores that were within a 10, 15 minute drive of us. So we were just close enough to where people could go bounce around between stores, whatever they needed to. So we were almost siphoning financial stability off of each other.
Yeah.
Because
if you were sold out of one video at one location, your location might have a few copies.
And they could just easily drive up the street, you know,
Right.
But it was also too is we were just close enough to where you could just drive to whichever store was closest at that time and go to the store. So it wasn't far enough away. And when you look at leases, cam fees, all of that, it was not a good situation. I think that's the situation that GameStop is in. And I do think they do need to close some stores, shift the employees over to the other stores, you know, because you don't want to lose some of that experience, right? But it'll be interesting to see what happens with GameStop. They need to do something. I know they're trying to shift to
they are at the forefront of a complete change, because you're right, Matt. They need to look at what Blockbuster did, because they're
what they didn't
really
do.
are, or what they didn't do. Yes, true.
Yeah.
Because Blockbuster just completely stayed to what they were and weren't adapting with streaming or even the new rental
that is what we're going to get,
which essentially is what took them down.
GameStop's
so if you go watch the documentary, because like for me, I know for a fact Netflix is not what did Blockbuster in. I know for a fact Redbox is not what did Blockbuster in, because I was on the front lines for 10 and a half years.
Yeah, I'm sure all of that like sped up whatever Blockbuster was not doing.
Yeah,
a lot of it had to do with the financial crisis of 2006 when that collapse happened with Lehman Brothers and stuff.
But then the other thing you got to think about is like VHS and DVD. They were becoming more and more, you know, extinct. I can't remember.
VHS was like
VHS was dead, pretty much dead. And then we were getting into Blu-ray and HD and whatever, and then whatever one, obviously Blu-ray. You know, Blu-ray did not have a large life cycle. It's like, it's still out there, but the main, like those are kind of the main sales, is like either DVDs or Blu-ray, and now digital download.
Yeah,
I mean,
you got to keep up with what's going on. Now video games are starting to be digital.
Yep. And I think that's the way you got to look at it, because I had my first Blu-ray player at 2000. I was working for 99, because I was working for Best Buy at the time.
When did the
that
first
was
PS3
DVD.
come out?
Sorry, that was my first DVD. My first Blu-ray player would have been 2000, right after the first PS3 came out.
Yeah, that's why I dropped
the money.
That was my first Blu-ray player, was the big PS3
Oh, it wasn't. That wasn't even for me. I actually bought a standalone player.
Oh no, I like PS3 was my Blu-ray player for $600. That thing did everything for me. I did.
Oh Lord,
I use that thing all the time.
Jerry, my wife sends her normal greeting.
Ew. Ew.
Oh,
got a little ew train going.
Ew train is going. So, you know, listen, I think GameStop does serve a purpose in the gaming industry. It really does.
It does.
But they need to recover smartly and start looking at oversaturation, just because there's so many stores even in the area out here that you're killing the other stores. You really are. I mean, up the road in Mechanicsville here, there's 2 stores literally within 5 blocks of each other.
Yeah.
And the reason they're open is because one does better with collectibles than the other.
I think that GameStop is going to be gone in maybe 7 years. 7 years.
I give them 5 or less,
unless they think of a way to restructure. Because honestly, I kind of like the idea of them becoming like a gaming lounge. Excuse me, because I can't speak. Reverse that. A gaming lounge / store.
Exactly. That's why I'm giving.
Which I think could work, because then you're kind of going into one market of like dealing with children in more of a stay there capacity, and also having a storefront. But who knows?
The problem with it though is you went and ticked off one of the big 3, because Sony does not allow digital games to be sold through GameStop anymore.
Yeah,
they have been predominantly with X-Men or
Xbox.
X-Men. Yeah.
Anyways, so speaking of Nintendo, two things came out this week. Is one, they are working with Niantic, who is the dev for Pokemon Go, to develop a Pikmin game. It's going to have looks like have some AR capabilities to it, but it's more designed to get people up and walking and stuff like that. So the other news, though, and we've been talking about the possibility of Switch Pro for a while now, with all the rumors and the new screen, the new 7-inch OLED and all that. But NVIDIA announced that they are no longer going to be making the chipset for the Switch. Okay, so they are saying we're done. Well, they're moving on to bigger things, right? You've got to stay ahead of the chip game. You can't keep producing older chips. It's actually more costly to produce older chips than it is the newer ones from a production line standpoint. So the rumors are coming out that Nintendo is going to be switching to the new NVIDIA chipset, which will increase memory and CPU. They're planning it for year-end, which is kind of the rumors going on as year-end rumor now. But it looks like it's going to support DLSS, which is deep learning super sampling, which is part of the new NVIDIA chipset that helps with high fidelity graphics and delivering them more efficiently. So it's going to allow the Switch, while docked, to be 4K.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well,
I mean, no, I can see them doing it because, like you guys said, with the way Nintendo goes with their chip route, the cartridge route for their games, and they can still project 4K or at least 1080p. I can see I can see the price getting a little, like, actually way more expensive, because
I could see it jump to 350, 400 on a new Switch.
I just don't see.
Yeah, but
them
that's way beyond Nintendo's like price ranges with consoles and stuff like that.
They'll do it. They'll do it.
But I think you're right. I think
it's still,
not only will they make it, but also people are gonna buy it.
I mean, it's still like what, a $200 difference than the other.
Yeah.
Well, generation? No. So at this point, you've got $200 for the Switch Lite. You have $300 for the current Switch. Now, when you look at the grand scheme of things, you look at what Xbox is doing with the Series S.
With
that's
the speaker box.
Speaker box 300.
Speaker box.
You know, so
I always think of that
if you jump into 350, 400, then you're going up against the PS5 all digital. And at that rate, you know,
to be perfectly honest, after you just said that, I still think Nintendo can handle it. I mean,
yes, Nintendo will be able to handle it.
Yes,
I think
no problem whatsoever.
Like, honestly, given the games that they'll come out with for that new Switch, like, dude, announce one Pokemon game. Boom, sales.
Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it now.
Breath of the Wild 2.
Breath of the Wild 2. If they are indeed doing a new Switch, Breath of the Wild 2 is a launch title.
You think they're gonna,
the next Mario game?
You think they're gonna flub it though, like with the other Zeldas, where it's like on the
it'll be Switch and it'll be console. Switch Pro. Yeah, but you'll have it like the difference between, like, say, Miles Morales for the PS4 and the PS5, right?
But the other thing was, given that, but hold on here, the other release for Breath of the Wild was for the Wii U, right? These sales will skyrocket more up because more people have Switches and another console possibly, or have two Switches, like a Switch and a Switch Lite. And I think no matter what, if they did both versions, they're still going to make probably twice as much money than they did with the Wii U version and the
But
Switch
eventually,
version.
though, they're going to have to go with a single SKU. They're not going to be able to, because there's not going to be any more chips.
Yeah, left. And that's the other thing. Like, hopefully, with those upgrades, backwards compatibility is not an issue, but that could be.
Give me a GameCube Virtual Console, and I'll be happy.
No, you guys are thinking of it just like, seriously. If you flub it again, I mean, like, look at the Breath of the Wild, like, or some of the other games where it's just nonstop, or it's like, what's the difference? You can see a blade of grass here, you can't. Just Nintendo, just stick to your guns. Like, honestly. I don't want. I don't want Link to be in like ultra 4K UHD.
Don't need it.
Because
don't need it.
You don't need to.
No,
he's never been.
I totally agree. I absolutely love playing my Switch dock.
Are you guys are trying like what games are Nintendo trying to put together? Like if they're trying to get like Apex Legends or Bloodborne,
but that's the thing though. I think it's the third-party games that can't handle it or that are too much for it,
and they're too much.
Stop trying to like, oh, I need to have this game on there. Like, put more into investing in things that make the game, like make Nintendo. Mm-hmm. Like if you like, for example, Cuphead was brilliant on the Switch because it's a one-player game if you play two, or it's a two-player game if you
so is Ori.
Switch the Joy-Cons on. Like you have two Joy-Cons. Brilliant strategy, you know, and that probably made them tons of money, you know. Stick to things that Nintendo like prides on, family orientated, like multiplayer orientated, you know, not the single player shoot 'em ups that just destroy all graphics.
But I think here's the other thing though, part of it though is you have to understand though is that the Nintendo generation is growing up as well. And they want to keep that generation.
Yeah, and it's not just about
the
retro,
Nintendo generation,
you know.
like us know exactly. Like if you say Zelda, do you think of like like Link completely like lifelike, or do you think of Link as a cartoon / 2D ish, maybe 3D character? Now that's 3D, but like you assume if you say Samus, do you think of it as like this, like going to be this Master Chief looking
not gonna lie, Samus, because of the level designs, especially with like Metroid Prime, that would look stunning in 4K.
But would you can imagine Samus as like a Master Chief kind of thing, like a Halo-esque game?
Yep.
You know, you can see it, but I mean,
but that's because that world's already been fleshed out though as the design for Metroid Prime though. When you look at how kind of it's moved and evolved, and the detail even Prime on the Cube had, you know,
like I just don't. I don't like them trying to push these graphics and just.
But you have to think of it on the other side, getting these third party developers and games
this time
like
around
sessions that this time around it's helped Nintendo get to like second place, possibly even first place, so their hardware has to complement that.
Do you think Animal Crossing, like,
no, but you're also suggesting a Nintendo game. What I'm saying is that those third party games help the revenue exponentially than just sticking with just Nintendo games.
Look what happened when the third parties ditched the Wii U.
But that is you're right. That is a byproduct, but it helps it overall helps the company as a whole. So they have to manufacture
this way.
That can
If
keep up with
somebody's
those
also
games.
potentially going to look at, say, Final Fantasy, right? Let's look at Final Fantasy X. It is available on Xbox, PlayStation, Vita, which we'll talk about here in a second, and the Switch, right? And a lot of people could look at it and go, well, do I want to spend $40, $50 to get it on my PS5 or PS4? Or do I want to spend that money on the Switch and I can have it on the go no matter where I go? And I think that's kind of Nintendo's niche right now, is that you can play it on the go. But if your console is so inferior to the point where it can't play a game, then I think that's where you got to kind of look at it. I think it is due for a chip upgrade because it's been running virtually the same chipset for a couple of years now.
If you're trying to run it on the go though, that means that you need to have like a 4K or UHD in the actual thing that's on the go as well. And that's gonna just like ultra skyrocket the price of.
And I trust Nintendo is going to build it the correct way that they need to for them, kind of where you're going with it, Jason. I think it's the DLSS that's going to just allow it to deliver an upscale on the graphics to make it look kind of 4K. I think it may be something in the middle between 1080 and maybe it's a 1440, true graphics, but we'll see on that. Now, real quick, other news is we've got Xbox which is something I didn't know that they did until I read about it, is that they're ending the Xbox Live Gold requirement for party chat and the free-to-play multiplayer. It's already been rolling out to Xbox insiders that are part of the Alpha Skip Ahead and the Alpha programs. I applaud them for finally doing this, because apparently, we were kind of talking about it before the show. It's like, I guess it was just always baked in since the beginning of Xbox, when they had Xbox Live, that you just pay for your online experience so you could chat with people and
pretty much
multiplayer,
play games.
I didn't realize for games like Apex Legends, for Call of Duty Warzone, stuff like that, that you were still required to pay for a subscription fee so you could play online. I guess take it for granted, with PlayStation Plus, they allowed a lot of that stuff to go on. So, and then finally, speaking of PlayStation, it came out this week that Last of Us Season 1 will adapt the first game. Now, it is going to have some off-the-rails moments, but it is going to be an adaptation of the
means
first game.
That means many things, though, especially in the entertainment business.
Correct, yeah. Secondly, which I'm more excited for, is that Ghost of Tsushima is going to be getting a live-action movie, and it is going to be helmed by John Wick director Chad Stahelski.
I'm not worried.
We all know how good John Wick was. I'm not worried from a director's standpoint.
I love that trilogy.
I
love that franchise.
What I am worried about is look at Uncharted and how many directors that thing went through. I sincerely hope that Chad stays on for Ghost of Tsushima, because then it will be actually really, I think it'd be great. And then lastly, it was announced that the PlayStation 3 and the PSP stores are going to be closing on July 2nd completely. And Vita, that'll close down August 27th.
So some really good games on my PS3 the downloadable games.
I know.
And I have great games on the Vita too. And I think what's sad is that you look at what Xbox is doing backwards compatibility.
Yeah.
They're going all the way back to Xbox One. The original OG Xbox for a lot of the backwards compatibility, whereas Jim Ryan has come out and said, well, I know backwards compatibility is a big thing amongst our players, but then they say, well, it's not really used. The problem is none of your crap is backwards compatible right now. So how can it be used? Right? PS5, yeah, we can play PS4 games because it's the same processor, but in the same architecture. We can't play PS3 games on our PS4 because of the cell architecture. So how can you tell us it wouldn't be utilized if we can't play the games? Because there is a lot of great games on the PS3 that we could be playing right now. Like one of the games that makes me, consider, maybe getting S in the future, so I have all the consoles, is Final Fantasy 13.
Yep.
It is only on Xbox right now. So it's sad to see this happen. Now, I get it. I absolutely get it. Like PSP, dude, that thing's been dead for a long time now. Yep. It's about time to kind of shut it down.
Or at least let us Vita, re-download them if they ever get reshelved in the new PSN store, because I had some great downloadable games. I had NBA Jam, Turtles in Time reshelved. I had that one. Yeah. The first time they put Scott Pilgrim in the PSN store, I bought it. I had some good games.
So the thing is that the Vita's been dead. I love the Vita. So I made sure to go and download. I went and downloaded FF Tactics, War of the Lion.
I still think
FF 1 through 6.
I still think the Vita's not done. I think Sony is gonna possibly bring it back in some way.
Jim Ryan wants nothing to do with mobile. They want nothing to do with it.
How do you beat Nintendo? You cannot beat Nintendo in the handheld. The only thing that comes close is phones, and even still, those are second rate to Nintendo.
We'll end it on this: is that the only way you compete with Nintendo is you don't have proprietary memory, which that did in the Vita, and you market it correctly. And I think
it did not get marketed well. No. And the memory is expensive. So, but Jim Ryan has come out and said he doesn't feel the need for another portable. I would love to see another Vita too. I would, but
I get where they're going. The direction is, the consoles are focusing on PS5 and making that their singular thing. So I think right now, I think the Switch is dominating so much that you would have to come out with a killer console for the same price as the Switch that will blow it out of the water, and you have to market it correctly, and you have to use just standard SD.
Yeah.
So, alrighty, Jason, what have you been playing?
Again, I've been on a TV watching binge, man. Like, I just do dailies for Division, dailies for Final Fantasy, but I've been watching shows like left and right.
Sicken me.
You sir.
But
yeah, I've been. And I was able to, because I'm like halfway vaccinated, and things are starting to open up in California a little bit weirdly. Guess what opened up this week, Jerry?
Oh no, what?
The lewd. The lewd is back open.
Wait, you mean like you mean legally? It opened
legally,
up like legally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
I went for a final drink. I went there for a final drink, and they were supposed to be closed.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Yeah.
So,
but legally, it is now open.
That's
right.
The good old lewd.
The good old lewd. I love it. I miss it.
I love it. That's great.
So I actually went out there for a second, and I might go out after this as well.
All right.
Maybe.
So,
but yeah,
Jerry?
just TV. I feel like an Xbox. TV.
Other than for me, other than Apex, I actually just paused Final Fantasy. I'm getting through it.
What a liar!
I'm not joking. I literally have it paused right now.
Oh.
Well, hold on. He doesn't show online, so we can't check that. So.
Yeah.
I like my privacy.
Mm-hmm. Matt,
so
what about you, Matt?
How's the island?
Animal Crossing is good. Building out a little bit more of it. Redid my neighborhood, adding in more street lighting, and
doing anything for Easter. Anything for Easter?
God, I do not want Bunny Day back.
No,
that was so annoying last year.
That really was annoying when I had it too.
Because you normally go around looking like for the little areas to dig up fossils. Well, they bury the eggs in the ground, so you don't know if you're digging up a fossil or an egg.
Yes. So you're digging up twice as much.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this time around might not be as annoying because I don't have a lot of grass in my town anymore through what I've done and rebuilding and whatnot. So, but yeah, there's been that. This week I started back up Uncharted Lost Legacy. It is a game that I have never finished. And I think a lot of it was because at the time I couldn't get into it, just because coming off of Uncharted 4, I went right to Lost Legacy and it just didn't feel the same to me. And I couldn't get into it. So now,
which is kind of it's so weird because when
I think problem is, my problem is I didn't really care for Nadine or Chloe as characters in the Uncharted series.
I saw it as an extra, like a side.
It's
of the Uncharted story. Yeah,
spin-off story.
I love spin-offs. It was awesome.
But now I'm going back in. It's been a couple of years removed. Still love the Uncharted's, but now I'm, a couple chapters in. I'm enjoying it way more than I did. So
yeah,
there's that piece. Played a little bit of the Project Triangle Strategy demo on the Switch, which is Octopath Traveler Tactics, pretty much. That's really, really good. It is. I cannot wait for that game to actually fully flesh out and come out. And then delving back into FF9 and 10.
Interesting.
As well.
A lot on your plate.
I've been going on. Just bouncing around, just whatever I feel like playing.
Just want to play some Blitzball?
Dude, nah. I'm not a fan of Blitzball.
You're not a fan of Blitzball?
That was one of the best games created for Final Fantasy. That was one of the best ones.
And then you just OP
you just win. Oh, you dominate. Oh yeah.
Just OP jack shot from downtown. And
So, anyways, but yeah, that's what I've been playing. So, but anyways, to all of our listeners and those that hopped in and took took a watch tonight. Want to thank you guys all for crashing game night with us. As always, thank you for joining. If you liked what you saw, please make sure to hit that follow button on Twitch. Subscribe to us on YouTube, podcast channel platform of your choice. If you want to have comments for the show, definitely go over to crashinggamenight.com, click on that leave a voicemail button on our podcast page, or shoot us an email. Let us know what you think, comments. As always, guys, be excellent to each other and stay frosty.
That's right, all my nerds. We are about to leave. Thank you. And also, guys, thank you for listening. That's right. Do push the little notification thingy. Just like that, little click, and subscribe to us, please. And once again, show your support for Black Lives Matter, Time's Up, Asian Americans, Stop the Hate. Do whatever you can to show your support, and just show, once again, let's just show some kindness and some decency to everyone, and be safe out there.
Definitely, guys, be safe out there. You know, it is, as Matt was saying at the beginning of this, you know, Biden wants to put out 200 million vaccines in all of our bodies. So please, as soon as you find out, go get signed up for it. Honestly, it does not take that long. It does not hurt. You know, I'm waiting on my second shot, and everybody's been telling me the second shot's where it's at. That's when you start, start feeling the little wear and tear. But, you know, it is all for a good cause. You know, like if a lot of places are opening it back up because more and more people are getting vaccinated, even the Johnson & Johnson one, please just, if you have the ability to sign up for your shot, sign up for your vaccine, still stay social distant, because just because you have one shot does not mean that you're immune immediately. So please stay, still keep your mask on, still social distance whatever you can. You can get a little bit more lenient, but still, you know, wash your hands, stay safe with the COVID.
Stay vigilant.
It is, we are at the finish line, guys. We can see the end of the light of the tunnel. Maybe we might be able to have a convention at the end of the year to celebrate like the end of COVID. Maybe in the summer we can actually go outside and enjoy the summer this year. Please, so close.
We're so close.
So close. Just stay safe, be kind, rewind, and please show all support for all the people that were affected in Boulder again. You know, it is very, very crucial that we just take a second to help out the person next to you, help out the person that needs the help. You know, it could be anybody. You could have the person right next to you. So just help and be nice and be kind, because those small things help and they go a long way. With that in mind,
steal Theo's thunder.
Oh, you know, baby. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Not everybody.